Welcome to Dear X, a new podcast series from the creators of The Mohua Show. In this podcast, we will speak to individuals who've had the courage to call it quits in their relationships and marriages when it wasn't working any longer. We will discuss the dreaded D word of divorce, which most of us shy away from. Dear X will speak to once married, now single folks, people going through heartbreak, counselors, and lawyers to bring you honest, trippy truths of what it took to say no more. So, hi, in today's episode, we have with us Rachna Shukla, an exceptional lawyer, legal expert, and advocate for women's rights. So, welcome, Rachna, in today's episode for Dear X. To talk about your career, let me just let our listeners know that it has been over 3 decades with a primary focus on family law and the Domestic Violence Act. Your impactful journey has earned you numerous awards and accolades, which we'll get to know as we get talking, establishing you as a trailblazer in the legal field, which is not easy. So we're very eager, to delve into your experiences and the intricacies as a divorced lawyer, because I think there's the rate of divorce is going higher and higher across cities now. I don't know what it is, in the rural areas. So maybe you can share with us a few, the challenges and the triumphs, especially, in this very complex space. What is it that people can expect? So the first question that comes to my mind is that your legal expertise is particularly concentrated on family laws. Okay. So can you share some insights into the specific challenges faced by individuals growing through divorce and how your role as a lawyer has evolved in addressing these challenges? Because ये family वाला issue में बड़ा ही sticky हो जाता है. इसको आप कैसे हैंडल करते हो?
Actually, sticky इतना नहीं होता है, as much you can say that the emotions are involved. There are emotions not only of the girl, the emotions are of the parents, the emotions are of the children, the emotions are of, the way you are connected to the society. So it's a lot of emotional stress and emotional baggage, which in metro cities still women carry from the upper strata also. They carry on their shoulders before they actually take this decision, because at the end of the day, we have to understand that there are different kind of women nowadays. As you can see, there are who are in your, they are in their 20s, maybe late 20s, 40s, and then come the 50s, which is my age bracket. So each one of them have a different set of understanding about the kind of social stigma they would be facing. A woman who is 55, 50 plus is going to face more social stigma. She will have less job opportunities. She will have more stress to carry. Whereas, if it's a young girl and if she has understood that, this chap is not good for me, or if the man, he thinks that this girl is not good for me, and if they decide to move ahead with their separation, it is so much easier, because they still have a lot of job opportunities. They can still figure out a lot of things, maybe another partner or whatever. So it depends upon each age group, social background, religion, everything plays a very, very important part. And the bottom line is economy of it, the finances of it, and the children. These two become one of the most critical issues, when it comes to fighting a domestic violence case or a divorce case, or anywhere, wherever the woman wants to, have a maintenance and alimony allotted to her.
So, Rachna, you know what? Can you just share with our listeners, a case where, you were presented with a very unique challenge that required very innovative legal approach. So, what did you do in a situation like this? Because, like you said, there are emotions involved, there are family members that are involved. How did you go about it?
Every case comes with its own challenges, but let me first tell you one thing, that the pattern is similar. So the most challenging aspect is when the woman is not earning, and when we have to take out her alimony and her maintenance as per the standards of which she is used to in her matrimonial home. And that becomes very challenging. Then if a woman is earning, even if she is earning, the husband is supposed to give her the maintenance and alimony. Then it becomes a challenge, because then there is a lot of haggling and wiggling and all those kind of things. But normally I don't take cases for men, since you've asked me for a very specific one, because I'm very closely known to them. So this gentleman lives very far off down south, and the girl is from hills. And the boy approached me here. And he asked me that, I really want to get divorced from her because she's barely with me. So, what do you think I should be doing? So there was definitely a little trick up my sleeve for him that if he wants a divorce, how he can proceed it, but it will still go contested. But what I advised him was that your wife has two small children. She does not have anything much to look forward to because she's not working. With a 3 months old child, it will be very difficult for her to get married. Also for the first next at least 6-7 years. So I think what she needs is an understanding of a legal space where she is standing. And I said, the moment you put a case on her for divorce, first thing which she is going to do is she is going to put a case of domestic violence on you, and not only you, also on both your parents. And if there is a sister, even her name will be embroiled in it. So sit down peacefully, have a calmful discussion. If you need illegal intervention, I'm always there, and try to resolve it out. So I guess from what I have heard last is they've decided not actually to go ahead with the divorce proceedings. Ultimately the family prestige and the character of the family, it is still very important in our society. You cannot sever yourself from your roots, from the place where you come from. And any child will be more perturbed with their parents getting troubled rather than, um, they taking a back step. That's what I feel. From cultured family, especially, I would say.
As a legal head of the domestic violence wing of Pari, for India, how do you integrate your expertise in domestic violence matters? Especially with your experience in divorce cases. I mean, are there any intersections that's there between these two areas that you think can be significant in sharing with us the cases?
Yeah, see, what happens is Domestic Violence Act is a very robust act. It's meant only for women. As far as divorce acts are concerned, they are definitely, dependent upon whether you're a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian, or you are married under Pasi Act or Special Marriage Act, so on and so forth. Most of the things are common, little bit changes are there here and there. But what I understood is that one of the grounds, cruelty, abuse, mental torture, the grounds which are there for divorce are also the similar grounds which we consider under the heading domestic abuse. So these two things, there are many things which is similar in it. And the best thing about Domestic Violence Act is women of any religion can actually go and find a relief there. Like in divorce matters, you are completely bound by your personal laws unless and until we get a codified law. Though there is a possibility of a uniform civil code coming, but God knows when it's going to come. So yes, there are similarities, there are overlapping, and most of the time one would see that domestic violence and divorce proceedings go simultaneously. And even if a woman have got divorced and a domestic violence proceedings are going on, they can still continue, and she can still claim the abuse, the remuneration for her abuse. But what happens is normally when there is a divorce, there is always a mutual understanding that the parties are going to withdraw their cases and they're not going to file further cases with each other and things like that. But yeah, that's what it is. And as far as being with Paris concerned, we do have a lot of programs with our stakeholders, a lot of NGOs which are working towards this, police officers, and people from Women Commission. So we try to do as much as we can. It at the end of the day, it all depends upon my boss Yogita. Whenever she says this is a green signal, Rachna, go ahead. So we do it.
That's really, really interesting, to hear from you about the uniform code that you were talking about. Please throw a little bit of light on this. How would it help every woman who's going to go and apply or seek a separation legally?
Yeah. So I'll speak to you about it. Say Uniform Civil Code is going to address not only matrimonial issues but also succession issues and all other things which are so scattered. See the way things happen in under Hindu Marriage Act, the way adoption happens, the way succession happens, is so much more different than it would happen for a Muslim person and for a Parsi woman or for a Christian, or for somebody of any other tribal faith or something like that. So, Uniform Civil Code suggests to bring all these issues under one umbrella so that each and every community can benefit by the Uniform Civil Code also. Though there are certain technical difficulties because we have had a lot of meetings and regarding this, and our papers have gone to the law commission because they're still studying it. These things take time. Once the law commission finalizes its report, it's stable in the parliament and so on and so forth before it actually becomes a proper act. And then it gets, then each and every individual is legally bound to follow that. So there are a lot of factors. India is a multifaceted, multi-religious country. There are tribes about whom we don't even know, their cultures, the way they function in their marriage and succession. So it's a very, very complicated thing. But in the law commission, we really have some great brains sitting. So I know they'll sort it out. So they also ask the stakeholders to have their meetings and give their opinions.
I think, Rachna, Uniform Civil Code will always help everybody because then there's one, system that people can follow. And maybe that will be helpful. Don't you think so?
I'm sure, it will be helpful in more ways than one. Uh, it all depends upon the person's rigidity. Like, suppose, for example, I'm a very rigid Hindu. I wouldn't like to follow that. Probably I'll just stick to my own my own Hindu Succession Act. In matters of adoption, it's a very complicated space. It's not easy. So that's the reason it's taking so much time.
So, Rachna, you've also been on Josh Talk. You write on a whole lot of publications also, as an author, to raise awareness. Where does this stem from?
Uh, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm a very prolific writer. But, when you start doing your legal drafting, you start feeling that you've become a writer. So, no, I haven't penned down much on legal. I don't have too many legal articles. Most of my articles have been on my love for my pet children. Yeah, but then what happens is ki when you're doing your drafting and you're filing your petitions, and each petition, at least for me, it's a different. I never do a copy paste kind of a thing. So then that itself becomes a writing. And as far as going to different forums and speaking, like I'm speaking with you and trying to spread the awareness, these are more of the methods which I'm following these days, instead of individually trying to just focus few hours of the day in propagating it. But yeah, whenever there is an opportunity which arises, because in George Talk and Dainik Bhaskar and many other such interviews, most of the time they're more interested in your personal journey and then about spreading awareness. Maybe through your personal journey, they want, so it becomes, it's not direct awareness, which we do through our conferences, which we have with our stakeholders. I attend conferences of many other big, better NGOs also, where every, because it's a round table, so every individual gets an opportunity to speak.
So, Rachna, how do you envision the future of family laws? Because the family laws are changing day by day, right? We have so many things that's happening now. Every day there's a new. At least in 2023, there was so many changes. So, how do you see these changes? Coming up, especially in cases of divorce, and what changes or improvements do you think that would be better in the legal landscape, especially with the domestic violence case, where majority, like you said, it's only women who can, go in and do a complaint of domestic violence. How do you see this change going ahead? Because there is a whole group of men who are also talking about domestic violence today.
That's okay. They can do whatever they want to. The thing is that I think we are heading towards good times. Uh, though, because see, what is an irretrievable breakdown of marriage? Just I think in October 2023, in very detail and in very and especially, very in-depth understanding of what irretrievable breakdown of marriage is, and what are the rights of a wife and a woman and a children and a husband. Everything in the para 33 of the judgment, they've very beautifully explained each and everything. So that, I think, is a very big step, because if a couple is able to prove that their marriage is not going to repair, then they can actually seek some relief over there, though it is not yet legal. Then, if Uniform Civil Code comes, probably it will open up the umbrella a bit, and it will become so much simpler for women, especially of other communities, who tend not to get that much justice. And yeah, I always see, very see, the problem is not in the kind of judgments we are having. We are having all pro women judgments, the acts are pro women, everything is great, and they are very robust acts and robust judgments, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes in execution of those. When a man is told to give 1 lakh rupees to his wife, that's the time he suddenly becomes a pauper, and the wife becomes very greedy, you know. So the main problem which is coming in our country is that about the execution. It's the execution of an order which takes 10 years, 13 years. People keep on challenging to the higher authority, then to the higher authority. Finally, when it is in Supreme Court, it's already 15 years gone down the drain. You have lost your youth, you have lost your everything. And so much time is wasted, so much money is wasted, everything. So much burden on the courts. And also, police needs to be a little bit more tight. When a woman go and speak about that, she's going through a domestic abuse or a divorce, most women I have met have not been in a comfortable mental space. They have been crying. They have been, thinking too much about their future. There are so many ifs and things like that. And they are holding on to the divorce only because they have this feeling of revenge and jealousy, that I will contest because I don't want him to get married. And this is, or I want my child. I always tell them that, if it's really not working for you, then in that case, don't do this. Come out of this feeling. Let's find a solution where you get the best deal. And I said, don't fight too much tooth and nail for child's custody, because when you go to court and you see small children being brought in front of the judge, imagine the kind of impact they would be going through. Anyways, once the child is 14, 15, 16, they are their own persons.
So, Rachan, tell us a little bit, for our listeners, if they were to go ahead and file a case in domestic violence, what are the steps that they need to take that would, enable them to go in the right legal direction?
Right. So, domestic violence is the topmost crime committed against the women, even as per last year's record. It's a silent crime, it's a silent epidemic. It is happening so many places, but definitely because of the factors I mentioned earlier, I'm not repeating for the sake of brevity, the same other reasons why women do not go. So there are a few ways. First way is you write an email to National Commission of Women. They are very quick in their response. And they give directions to the SHO of the police or to the women thana. And then it is taken up from there. You're called for counseling. And if counseling happens, if things work out, fine. Otherwise, if they don't work out, they make a report of that. The second is, if something has happened to you and if you really want to go somewhere, you can actually go and go to the police station or to the Mahila Thana, but depending upon the time of the day. And you can also lodge a complaint there. The police will itself do the same thing. They will send the whole bundle or all the full diary to the women Thana. You will be called there for counseling, so on and so forth. Third step is you actually go to the protection officer. Protection officer is an officer of the court. He's not a judge. He or she is not a judge. It's just an officer of the court who has been appointed. And her role is very clearly defined in the Domestic Violence Act. And it's a very, very powerful role. So you go to the protection officer. Protection officer will make you, fill up certain forms and do all those kind of things. And then again, the same, the party will be called, the counseling will be held. Then there is, every state has something called Mahila Adalat, where the chief of the women commission of that particular state will hold a adalat, like a proper court, like a lok adalat, where all the officers of the police who are of that particular thana, suppose some A's case is registered in thana 1. So A along with her jing bang, thana with their jing bang, their diary, down to everything. They will come, big dramas happen there, shouting this, that, all that. No result come out of that. Very rarely I've seen a successful Mahila Adalat. I haven't seen so far. So that also is a part of this whole drama. And what happens is during this period when the orders are passed, most of the time men anyhow, if they believe in domestic abuse, they're anyhow not going to follow that order because it's not court's order. It's an order given by some protection officer, some this one, some that one. So it doesn't really bother them. So the final step is that you go to the magistrate and file a complaint directly in the court. And then the process starts.
So, Rachna, just tell us, do you see that there's a rising number of women seeking divorce from the past and now? Is there truly an increase in the numbers?
Yes, there is an increase in the number. At least there are, as I said, it all depends upon the age bracket. But when divorce is getting contested, then it is a long drawn battle. Whether the girl is 25, 45, 55. If it is not getting contested, then you can really wind it up fast because the Supreme Court have given very clear guidelines that the 6 months mandatory period of waiting for mutual consent divorce can be waived off if the parties are agreeable to it. क्योंकि वो 6 महीने का पीरियड बड़ा टॉर्चर होता है क्योंकि आपको पूरे टाइम टेंशन होती है कि यू डोंट नो व्हेदर द अदर पार्टी इज गोइंग टू विथड्रॉ और नॉट so at least that part is taken care of. So then battles become very long drawn. So to come to understand that what is the success rate, how many women are actually getting a divorce in which they are satisfied with their alimony, with their maintenance, and with the other things, if the children are involved. So that part I'm not really very sure about. Are they coming out of it satisfied and comfortable? And again, it all boils down to the execution.
So thank you so much, Rachna, for being on today's episode. And this was an absolute honor. And I'm sure so many of our listeners have learned because many times as women, we don't know who to seek out to if we are to go out there and lodge a complaint. We're always scared of the ifs and the buts and what will people say. So I think this episode will also throw light if they were to file a case ever against domestic violence. Thank you for listening to Dear X from the creators of The Mohua Show. We would be delighted to get your feedback for these candid conversations that our guests shared with us. If you want to reach out to us, DM us at our Instagram page, The Mohua Show. We all know to call it quits isn't easy. To D or not to D isn't really an easy question to answer.